And so, grace, mercy, and peace to you from God our Father and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. This reading we had is where faith and politics intersect, which is great for commentary right now in our lives. There's a lot of how do we act as Christians in our faith? How do we act as citizens of a country or citizens of this world? There is a lot of political strife going on. If we look back just to a week ago when we had the referendum and the politics and faith that have intersected in that, we look at the conflict in Israel and Palestine and where faith and politics once again clash. This is not anything new, right? There's always been this challenge of how do Christians respond to their government, right? And sometimes it's gone well, sometimes it hasn't. For example, one time where it didn't go well was the rise of Hitler in Germany, where Christians did not speak out. They did not. There were a few who did, and we're indebted to Dietrich Bonhoeffer through that and his writings and the fact that he went to jail for that. And we are blessed by his writings that came out of that. But there were many Lutheran pastors who did not speak out about what was going on behind closed doors, but that everyone knew. There's other times where faith has been shown to push up insurrection. I think of the January 3rd USA Capitol insurrection that happened just a few years ago, and how there was a charge of the Christian right, and that we need to take over the government, that we need to put right what has been gone wrong, what has been taken from us. So that you can see the real conflict here in these two conflicts, and both didn't, I think, go well. In the one, it's asking for us as Christians to be active, to speak up to our government, to say something. And the other one is where Christians spoke up too much and inflicted their opinion and what they thought they were supposed to do too much into the government and wanted to take it over. So it's a challenge for us, right? How do we understand our role with the government, where politics and faith intersect? And so Jesus speaks into this in this very short little teaching. And he says simply, and he knows they're trying to trick him, but he says to this, "Show me the coin used for paying the tax." They brought him a denarius. And he asked them, "Whose image is on this? And whose inscription?" And they responded, "Caesar." It's Caesar's coin, right? You know, it's interesting what inscriptions have and the purpose behind an inscription on a coin or on a building. It's there to mark who owns it, who it's from, who it belongs to, right? We pull out our coins, our money, which we don't really use anymore. We just use a bit of plastic. But I remember when, Queen Elizabeth died, it was, well, whose inscription's going to go on the coins now? Is it going to be King Charles or not? Or are they just going to let these go? Maybe we'll just skip ahead to William, right? That way we don't have to waste so much time making coins, right? That nobody uses. But it's this inscription to mark who owns it. If you look around at parks, you see lots of plaques. And there's always the date and who installed it, what government official was there at the time, because they want to know it was funded by this and it was opened by this person. Our school has some of these plaques as well, because we've received money from the government. And so we have plaques that say those things on it. There's also this concept in the public sector as well, not just in government. It's called NIL, name, image, likeness. So this was a thing that has started to creep up. Who owns your name, image, and likeness? So this was a court case that was fought in the U.S. for NCAA, that is collegiate university athletes. And they wanted to have their own name, image, and likeness that they could sell and profit off of because they were making a name for themselves in college football and college basketball and various other things. They wanted to be able to sell their name, image, and likeness. And the governing body, NCAA, had said, no, we own that. You are just student athletes. So there's a great court case that has come in favor of the athletes, that they can sell. They do own their name, image, and likeness. This is actually the same argument and fight that's going on in Hollywood right now as well. So there is the Screen Actors Guild strike going on right now, and that's what this is about. Let me read you a quote. It says, they propose that our background performers should be able to be scanned, get 1 day's pay, and their companies should own that scan, their image, their likeness, and should be able to use it for the rest of eternity on any project they want, with no consent and no compensation. With our technology now, you literally can be scanned, and your image, your likeness, your name can be used into eternity in any way that they want. If you have Netflix, there's a great episode in Black Mirror, a TV show, about this whole premise and how far it can go. But it's so fascinating to think how your name, your image, your likeness can be taken from you, and that you have no control over it. And so it causes us to consider now, what is our name, image, and likeness? Who owns it? How are we in control? So do you own your nil, your name, image, likeness? And what inscription do you have on you? If we were to put a plaque on you, what would it say? What are you about? Who owns you? Because the reality is there's a lot of things that are inscribed on us. Well, not physically, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And we live in that identity, in that likeness. So say, for example, politics. There are a lot of people who live their identity, their likeness, by their politics. I'm a this. I'm a labor. I'm a green. I'm a liberal. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. They live by that, and they make their friends and associations by that. And that's what they care about. And they take certain issues in their politics, and they vote on certain things. One issue voting. You ever do this? I know this was popular in the Trump election, that first one, that I had good Christians that I knew who saw the life that Trump lived and said, I'm voting him because he's going to stop abortion. And they voted for him purely for that one abortion. How do we handle that? What's inscribed on us, on our hearts? Last week I talked about it being our fashion, what we wear, how we look, how we comb our hair or lack of hair. And we want people to see us in certain lights. That's why there's a whole generation that scrubs their profiles, their social media profiles, to look a certain way. They want to make sure that they always have this angle or that angle, that they're always looking a certain way. It's like a museum. It's a caricature of what really is. They're just trying to show the best parts of themselves. We live also by our career aspirations. What do you want to be? What do you want to become? And so you live through that line. That is what you're all about. If I'm going to do this, if I'm going to do that, we're going to make sure that we have that all lined up. This is one that rings true to my soul, as you know already. What inscription would I put on myself? If I were to get a tattoo, what would I put on it? This is the good question. Does anybody know what I would do? A Chicago Cubs logo right there. Yeah. That's my heart, my baseball team. That's what I would inscribe myself because I'm so passionate. And you know the stories, you've seen them, people who have gotten tattoos of things because that's what their allegiance is. It's their ride or die. No matter what, they're going to be with that team. But my question is, of all those things, and I know you've got some in your head right now, do they make your life better? Does being a green or a labor or a liberal make your life better because that's who you are? Does cheering for the Cubs or the Broncos or the Lions make your life better? Or the Reds? Going to get it in there, Dave. Does it make your life better? This year it does. But I can tell you, for me, a couple weekends ago was one of the worst weekends of my life. Do you know why? The Lions lost. The Broncos lost. The Cubs got knocked out of the playoffs. And the Ryder Cup U.S. men's golf lost. Boom. Flattened in 2 days. Oh, and the Chicago Bears, my football team, blew a 21-point lead in the third quarter. It was just brutal. And it makes you go, why is my life being so impacted by these things? Maybe you've had realization moments like that where you wake up and you realize the things you're inscribing on your heart, the things you're putting into your heart and your mind are not making your life any better. And so Jesus says to Caesar's, they replied to them, and he said to them, so give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. Jesus says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. At surface level, it just says pay your taxes, just give the money back to you. But let's get to the heart that really matters. Give back to God, give back to Caesar, to the government, to your sports affiliation, to your fashion, to your career aspirations. Give it what it can only give you. Our government asks for money in taxes. And so we freely give it because they give us safety. They give us a nation to watch over us. They protect us. They give us a land to live on. All sorts of things the government gives us. And so it's only right and due that we give money for that. But you know what we don't give them? We give them loyalty, certainly. But we don't give them our heart and our soul. Our sports clubs, we give them our money to watch the games. We maybe buy merchandise to wear. We don't give them our heart and our soul. Because doing that only leads to heartache and brokenness. When we give the wrong things to the wrong people, it only leads to heartache. Jesus says, give to Caesar what is Caesar. Give to those things what is due them. But give to God what is God's. And here's what is God's. In Deuteronomy 6, it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Love God with your heart, and your soul, and your strength. That is what God owns. And I love the next verse is how it says this happens. These commandments I give to you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. Impress that on your forehead, on your hands. Teach them to your children. That is what we give to God. That is what He owes. I love it when it says, when you write them on your door frames of your houses and on your gates. This is what God calls us to do, to love with all our heart, soul, strength, and mind.